Morning, everybody. Richard C. Wilson here, Family Office Club and Billionaires.com. And I've got with me today the king of sales, Jeffrey Gitomer. Jeffrey's written over 15 books that hit the New York Times bestseller list. He's sold over 5 million copies of his Little Red Book of Selling. He's had 4 books at one point of time on the Wall Street Journal's best-selling list, which is pretty rare to do. It's hard to get just one on there. And one of the most important things to know about Jeffrey is that his strategies really work. They changed my life. They changed my business. The core of Family Office Club's approach to thought leadership, which has resulted in me having more thought leadership than all my competitors combined, is because of a single sentence that Jeffrey told me in one of his books that we're going to get into pretty soon here. But he also just encourages people to be good human beings. He says to be a good salesperson, you first have to be a good person. So that's really core, adding value and not just peddling things, for a commission. Jeffrey's done over 2,500 corporate events, meaning speaking, training events for large corporations. And I'm just excited to have you here, Jeffrey. So what else would you like to add to your background?
Thank you for setting such low expectations for this interview. 2 things. Number one, the Little Red Book of Selling was on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list 103 straight weeks.
Wow.
Secondly, of my 2,500 corporate events that I've done in my career, I've never made a sales call. Everybody who wants to hire me calls me. And I just on a me and you basis, did I call you or did you call me?
I called you.
Right. I don't call anybody. I'm in sales and I make no sales calls. But it's because I put value into the marketplace and then the market responds to me.
Right.
I don't have an agenda. I don't have when I did cold calling in New York City, I had a target.
Right.
I didn't, I'd go in to see somebody that I didn't know, but I was prepared for that cold call. And as a result, I was in the imprint sportswear business in the 70s in New York City. And we would make samples up for people in advance.
Right.
Anybody I made a sample for, I had a 100% closing ratio.
Huh.
And for like Revlon and STP and Paramount Studios, big companies.
Right.
And I just went in to the pitch and said all my stuff. And the guy said, "Well, can you make me a sample?" And I go, "Sure, I can. If you like it, how many will you buy?"
Right.
And I'd wait for an answer. And then I said, "But if you love it, how many will you buy?"
Right.
And then he'd give me an answer. And then I just unbutton my shirt and show him the sample. And it blew people's doors off, Richard. It was,
wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was way ahead of its time.
That's great. It's like Frank Kern, he talks about pattern interrupts because, it's like, I think you once said in one of your sales books, you sent a cell phone to somebody with just your phone number in it. And you said, "Hey, push the call button, that call me," right? It's just a weird thing to do. You get a FedEx box, you're going to actually open it, right? So yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
If you create enough intrigue, people will, and I got that from being a cat person. Cats want to know about everything. Right. They'll stick their head in something. They'll climb up on the stove to see why it's hot.
Right. Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. We've got a bunch of cats at our house, a couple less because the coyotes recently, but we had 4 at one point here. So I wanted to go into something because when I was getting my MBA, I read in one of your books, I think it was a sales Bible, you said in like chapter 3 or 4, you said, "I'm going to give you my formula for success. All of my competitors could read this. I don't care. They can read it and try to copycat me because they won't, because they're lazy, like most people. They won't want to do the hard work. And all you have to do is put information out to people who could say yes to you and do that once a week or so and do that over a couple of years. You'll be a local expert. 3 to 4 years, you'll be a regional expert. If you do that for 7+ years, you'll be a global expert. And nobody wants to do that work." And I remember telling myself, I didn't know what a family office was. I didn't have any experience in investments really yet. But when you ended that with, "And I'm going to tell that to you, but you're not going to do it either," because most people just ignore that. They want the shortcut, the trick, the one-liner to close people. And when you told me I was not going to do it, I told myself, I remember looking up and saying, "Well, I'm the SOB who's going to do it." And then when I found out about family offices, I've just been doing that for 17 years now, and it completely changed my life. And we've dominated the niche with thought leadership. And so, first of all, I just want to thank you for that because the
Let,
generosity of you giving
let
that
me
away
give
is
you,
huge.
I'm going to interrupt your compliment and let me give you the exact quote from the sales
Go
Bible.
for it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I put myself in front of people that can say yes to me, and I deliver value first.
Right,
Put myself in front of people that can say yes to me, and I deliver value first. I don't add value. I give value,
right.
because when you add it, it implies that you have to do something to get it. When you give it, you're just giving it out to the world. And
Hmm.
when the world pays you back, it's always times 10,
Right,
always.
right. Interesting enough, like when I studied Robert Cialdini in great depth, reciprocation is one of the top six most powerful influence principles. And what I realize is that your formula is basically creating mass reciprocation, and you're basically getting, value into thousands of people's brains. And some of those are going to pay you back, tenfold, right?
Correct. Correct.
Right.
That's
So,
correct. Think about this: 2,500 seminars, never made a sales call.
right.
I mean, that's all based on putting myself in front of people that can say yes to me and delivering value first.
Sure,
That's the
sure.
whole philosophy.
I know part of your trajectory was having an article in local Charlotte Times or a newspaper in your local
Yeah.
market.
Business journals predominant.
Okay. And then after that did well, started to get syndicated in a second and a fifth and a hundredth. And
But here's the deal: I could go to Omaha, Nebraska,
yeah,
attract 750 people to a room because of my column in the paper. They thought I lived there,
right.
or in Dallas or Orlando or
Yeah,
Detroit, wherever I was. I could draw an audience based on my column in the paper.
right, right.
It's totally
Interesting.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So over time, I've found there's niches within niches. And I wonder like how you think about focusing your content. Like for me, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have written some of the books I've written, but like writing a book called Capital Raising, for example, writing a book called How to Start a Family Office. It's like very, very specific. So I'm just giving tons of value. If your migraine is, I don't know how to start a family office, then this is the Excedrin in the form of a book. And it's doing what you're doing, but very, very niche topics. And I look at it as concentric circles, right? There's family offices, single family offices is a circle within that, how to start a family office, billionaires.com. These are all related, but concentric little niches that we want to build up. And we look at it like a sandbox with no walls on it. A 2-year-old can crawl in and compete against you. But when you have all
Mm-hmm.
this thought leadership, now you have big, tall walls around and you have a moat around your sandbox. I just wonder, as you've put out all these books, how have you thought about niches? How have you thought about occupying different sandboxes? How have you thought about the iteration of who you're trying to attract with that thought leadership as you went along?
Um, I am a personal development person and a salesperson.
Okay.
I'm also an attitude person, and I don't focus on customer satisfaction. I focus on customer loyalty.
Okay.
Big difference. Um, and so all of that puts attraction out. And when someone calls me, I ask them, what specifically are you looking for? What outcomes are you looking for? And it may be 3 or 4 different ideas that they have. And I say, well, listen, I don't want to do a one-time deal, but I'll do a multi-time deal with you. If you'll let me talk on listening, if you'll let me talk on attitude, if you'll let me talk on sales, if you'll let
Mm,
me talk on relationships. And they do.
okay.
They want, I mean, they recognize that I've got brains, and
Sure.
they recognize that I may have information that a salesperson can use, but this is my closing line when I'm talking to somebody
Okay.
without asking a question.
Yeah.
I said, let me explain what's going to happen. I'm going to give your people information that 1 minute after they hear it, they can take it out into the street and turn it into money. And they go, that's what we want. I go, no, that's what everyone wants. That's what everyone wants.
Right.
But
Well,
I've developed a core of information that creates understanding.
sure.
So, for example, one of the first questions I ask you is, where did you grow up?
Right.
And I don't say where you're from. I ask, where did you grow up? Big difference. Because where you grew up, I take you back to your family home, your siblings who you had fights with, your mom and dad, if they're alive or passed on. I'm putting a flood of emotional information through your forehead.
Hmm.
And it helps me understand that if we have something in common, I can talk about it.
Sure. Sure. Got it. Interesting. So it brings up like a couple of questions
Sure.
related to all of that. One is, for sure, I see that your ideas can turn into money. So I mean, obviously, you have to actually have the goods and deliver
And you have to
exactly what.
work. None of my ideas require no work. This
Right,
is not the 4 hour work week. This is not the secret. You don't sit in your couch and watch a Cadillac appear in your driveway.
right, right,
You work your ass off.
right, right. Got it. Yeah. Related to that, I guess, are there like that statement really stands out. And I read your little gold book of positive attitude. I'm sure I'm saying the title
Mhm.
wrong, but the little red book of selling, the sales Bible, those books I've read many times. And then I have all of your silver, green, different colored little books that you wrote over time. I've got a whole collection
Yeah.
of them. And so when I look through all those books, that one statement really changed my whole life. I don't know how many people come back and tell you that a decade later, or like in my case, it's literally 20 years later, and I still almost remember verbatim what the quote was, and it still drives our
Yeah.
strategy. Is,
Yeah.
is there one or two other statements like that out of all the books that people come back to you decades later and say, wow, you changed my life with that one sentence?
Yeah. I'll give you two of them.
Okay.
People don't like to be sold, but they love to buy. I've trademarked that.
Okay.
All things being equal, people want to do business with their friends. All things being not quite so equal, people still want to do business with their friends. And so you can say you have a great relationship with a customer, but I'm going to ask you, are they your friend?
Right.
Because that's a deeper form of relationship.
Right.
There's another, I mean, I have literally, Richard, I have 500 statements that I consider gems.
Right.
And I'm about to make one of these big books that are posters
Yeah.
of my best stuff,
Yeah.
and then sign them and sell the book for $1,000 a pop.
Yeah, awesome. You know what I do to brainwash myself every morning is I have my monthly, quarterly, annual goals, and then I have about 40 statements for my mental programming, and I read it before I go out into my email inbox in my world, and I brainwash myself like this is all I care about. This is how my brain's going to work. I would guess that you could have like a Gitomer brainwashing one
Oh
pager,
yeah, oh totally,
you know,
yeah,
that
totally.
that'd probably be
But
really valuable.
but here's the deal, and this is a very non-secret secret.
Okay,
I love what I do,
right,
and that shows more than anything.
sure,
If I get a comment back from somebody, I want the comment to say he loves what he does and it shows.
right, right,
That's the best comment I can. Not like this guy was unbelievable. No, he loves what he does and it shows.
right, right.
That's the nicest thing someone can say to me.
It's interesting. I quoted you at one of our private investor masterminds, and I talked about how you say, life is unfair, and that's a good thing.
Right.
It's like it can be unfair in your benefit because people will do business with their friends. And then you look at the science of it, and it's scientifically proven that the bond between two people is 7 times more powerful than the merits of the thing you're trying to sell. And some people get upset by that. They say, how can you possibly say that the world being unfair is a good thing? And they'll get emotionally upset at it. And I try to explain it a couple times and I give up and I say, if you don't get it, you don't get it.
Exactly. Life is not fair. That's rule one.
Right,
It's also rule 20. Yeah,
right,
it's part of the tough shit rule.
right, right, for sure.
And I grew up selling in New York City,
Okay.
where fuck you is a greeting and everybody wants a bribe. And there's not, I got a cousin that can get this cheaper. And what are you talking about?
Right.
This is where I grew up. And everyone's smarter than I am. I've never been in a place where I was always the dumbest guy in the room.
Right.
But I also made $1 million sales.
Right.
And I made them in a way that blew the other guy's doors off
Right. Right.
because I was creative, engaging, and funny. And I
Right.
took no shit from anybody
Right.
because I grew up in Philly. My family's from Brooklyn. So
Right.
I have the values of that Northeastern upbringing and the balls to be able to pull it off.
Sure. Sure.
You need balls.
Right. No balls, no babies is what Cuban says. That's how I got him to answer my questions.
That's
Took
interesting.
14 emails, but that subject line got it done. So he
Really.
agrees with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I met him on accident.
okay.
Um, a buddy of mine was taking me to the Green Bay Packers Philadelphia Eagles game a few years
Yeah.
ago. And he was also on the board of directors of the Milwaukee Bucks. He said, before we drive up to Lambeau, we're going to go to the ball game. I said, okay. They're playing the Mavericks.
Yeah.
We're sitting courtside.
Nice.
And I walk up and I have my ticket and somebody's in my seat. I go, yo, fucker, you're in my seat. And it was Cuban.
Oh, jeez. What did he say?
He was apologetic. He was very nice. He was very, very nice. And we took a selfie. I have, you want me with Mark Cuban in a selfie? I got one.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I like to see that.
Yeah, he was a little reluctant and but I said, just sit there. I'll sit someplace else. Don't worry about it. Because at courtside, there's always seats open.
Right.
Always.
Right. Yeah, they don't show up half the time, right? So,
Yeah.
or they just come for one quarter of the game or something. So, I mean, related to Cuban though, like I said, took me 14 emails to get his attention. I've emailed every billionaire and messaged every billionaire you can possibly message. Interviewed 35 of them so far. I'm trying to interview 100 of them. Any feedback, strategies, approaches that you would take if you were me and you're trying to interview 100 billionaires and it took me 18 months just to interview 35 of them, and I'd like this not to take the next 5 years to get done. Any feedback given your
Yep.
strategies?
Yep. Billionaires do not live next door to thousandaires.
Right.
They pretty much live next door to billionaires.
Right.
So I would not end an interview with a billionaire without the question, who else?
Okay.
Ever.
Sure.
They all know each other.
Right.
They all know each other.
Right.
And if you're doing a real estate deal with somebody in New York City, they're all billionaires.
Right.
So you want to find out who is their friend, who would love an interview like this.
Sure.
Because a lot of times they don't want the interview.
Right.
They'd rather be reclusive.
Right. Exactly.
But I will tell you also that a lot of guys want that accolade.
Right. Right. Trying to find
So-
those is part of our trick or our strategy that we haven't totally cracked yet, but we're going after some newer unicorn billionaires, the unicorn tech companies, AI, crypto, et cetera, as some fertile ground, and just hoping eventually the word gets around about the platform and people want to spread the word.
I'll get you a couple of interviews from people that I know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's the best way to do it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll go back to the ones we've interviewed, and I've only asked a couple of them, honestly, as dumb as that sounds. Now that it's so obvious of an idea, so I need to go back and ask more of them now that the website has a more critical mass of interviews
And
done.
just say we're almost we've interviewed a lot of billionaires, and we were remiss in not asking you who your friends are that might also want to do an interview.
Sure.
The goal is to get to 100 billionaires,
Right.
and you can help.
Right. Right. I'm going to look at this.
I've only interviewed 35 so far. Don't say that.
Okay. Don't say it.
Just say we're looking for more.
Okay. Okay.
Or we're looking to get to 100.
Okay. Awesome.
And we're close.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. So I had a couple other questions related to your experience. One is 2,500 corporate events. Do you have 1 to 3 tips related to how to just do an amazing job on stage when you're speaking publicly, since you have so much experience in that?
Yes. I'm not the first person who created this slogan. It was created in the 1920s by the guy that founded the Boy Scouts.
Okay.
Be prepared.
Right.
If you are not personalized and customized in your talk, you will die. No one gives
Right.
a shit about who you are. No one gives a shit about what you ever did. They only care, how can this guy help me become more successful?
Sure.
And so that's all I do. I interview the leadership team, and then I interview some random people from the audience about what they want or what their barriers are.
Okay.
And then I create a talk around that.
Okay.
And because it's different for IBM than it is for Hewlett Packard.
Right.
It's different. It's different for Toyota as it is for Lexus.
Right.
They're the same product, but it's not the same outcome they're looking for.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Awesome.
I did a training for Hendrick Lexus here in Charlotte
Okay.
several years ago. There were 50 or so people in the room at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I said, how many of you do not drive a Lexus? And 2 people raised their hand, and I threw them out of my training. How the hell can you sell a car and somebody's going to come up and say, well, what kind of car do you drive? Well, I drive a Mazda. No, that's not going to cut it. Okay, so the general manager at the time came into my training around 7:30 and hugged me. Because they've been trying to do that for years.
Right.
They give them a break. They give them low prices. They give them no interest. Every kind of thing they can do to get them to drive a Lexus.
Right.
Because they know that unless you're a product of the product, you're not going to be able to convey it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes
That's
total
what's wrong with
sense.
MLM.
Right.
People are not a product of the product. They think they're going to get in it to, quote, make money.
Right.
Big mistake.
Right. Big mistake. Yeah.
Well, you don't
Interesting.
make
I mean,
money anyway. You earn money.
right. Right. Sometimes people come to us and they hear about focusing on a sandbox to dominate it long term with thought leadership and whatever. And, we tell them if you're not passionate about it, someone else is going to eat your lunch and work longer and harder.
Every day.
And if
Every
it's
day.
not valuable enough of a sandbox, you're going to get bored of it, move on to the next thing. You're not going to be consistent. So what you said, that excitement, the 100% buy-in, that no matter how long it takes, you're going to be the number one thought leader on this little weird high-end niche that you've carved out for yourself. It's critical, right?
An hour a day will do it.
An hour a
An
day.
hour a day will do it. Read about it, talk about it, go give free talk somewhere, join Toastmasters, build your personal skills, write about it every morning. Let me share with you, because this is a great interview, by the way. And I don't mean to look up your skirt, but it's a great interview. I have a morning routine. My morning routine every day for the past 30 years is I wake up earlier than everybody in my home.
Yep.
And I spend 1 hour on myself.
Nice.
I do 5 things, or of 5 things every hour.
Okay.
Number 1, I read. Number 2, I write. Number 3, I prepare. And those 3 things cause me to think and create.
Right.
Read, write, prepare, think, create.
Right.
Now, I have 17 books so far, and most people will know what the weather is or what the traffic is and have a cup of coffee. And they put sugar in their coffee like an idiot. You can't taste the coffee.
Right.
I put in my coffee. Well, you can't taste the coffee.
Right. Right.
I don't need coffee, but I like coffee. I drink Death Wish coffee, which is the strongest, best tasting coffee on the planet.
Okay.
By the way, he might be close.
Okay. Awesome.
I'll get you him. I don't know where he is right now on that scale, but he's rolling.
I'll look that up. Awesome. So that was going to be one of my questions later, is how much visualization, affirmations, mindset work do you do? Obviously, your morning routine changes what you do the rest of the day, just like my brainwashing laminated one pager. Is there anything else related to visualization or affirmations or mindset that you wanted to add to that?
I am a metaphysical reader.
Okay.
And I have read about what's on your brain, what's on your mind, literally since 1972.
Wow.
which is before most people were born, including you.
Yep.
And I collect books by writers of metaphysics,
Okay.
most of which were written prior to 1940. How to Think and Grow Rich. And Think and Grow Rich, by the way, is the wrong title. It's Think, comma, then Grow Rich. So I look at it a whole different way. What's the cause and effect? What is the outcome?
Right.
What's going to happen after I read? What's going to happen after I write? What's going to happen after the cows come home? I want to know what's in my barn. And I want to know it in a way where I can figure out how it works best for me first, my family second, and then everybody else third. Nothing's more important than myself and my family.
Right.
And you think about it, like, I'm not a sacrificer, I'm selfish. I know if I don't take care of myself, and I just turned 78 3 days ago.
Wow, congrats.
If I don't take care of myself, then I'm no good for my family.
Sure.
You know, my dad died young. Why? Because he didn't take care of himself.
Right.
So I have to be a product of what I'm conveying.
Right.
And do I eat shit food? Yes, I do. I mean, everybody has to have a diet that includes at least one Milky Way a month. If it doesn't, you're not human.
Right.
It's not, you know, someone's going to cut me open, Richard, and go, this guy drank whole milk. Correct, he did. I mean, what's almond milk, for God's sakes? It did, you know, I'm not from that genre.
Right.
I'm from the genre that,
You're not Gen X.
Yeah, unwrapped 5-cent candy bars. But that's a whole other side of how you live. I still eat well. I eat fresh. I eat raw. You know, I eat things that are good for me, and my girls keep me on track.
Right.
What are you eating that for? And they're the same girls that will bring over donuts.
Right. That's funny.
But this is the challenge. Selfish is actually good. Most people think of it as bad.
Right.
You'll hear a disgruntled woman say, I gave you the best years of my life. Like, what are you doing that for? They're your best years. Keep a couple.
I remember you saying that once. Yeah.
So the challenge that you have is a very, very important one. You do the best you can be for yourself first. Then and only then can you be the best for others.
Right. Got it. Okay. Couple last questions here. I want to also
keep this
hear
going
about
for an hour. I'm good.
Okay. So when you're on stage, you want to be prepared. I love that comment. I'm an Eagle Scout. I work with a few Eagle Scouts, and anything else for something you do on stage that is non-obvious, counterintuitive, not something they talk about in every speaking book, and you do it and the crowd loves it, and like you make a real connection with them up front, is it, or during it? Is there something like that?
Yep. I'm funny.
Okay.
And I'm funny first. You've laughed 50 times in this interview.
Right.
And the reason is I think funny first.
Right.
And so I'm going to give you an example. I had to give a speech in front of the National Speakers Association, my fellow speakers, 1,500 people in the audience, most of whom had some kind of an affliction or something happened to them, you know, that kind of thing. And it's a maudlin talk.
Okay.
Well, I grew up in an upper middle class family. We played golf. My dad sponsored this guy on the tour. He was a manufacturer. My dad owned his own company. We had 100 employees. What am I going to tell people?
Right.
Okay. So I'm an anticipated speaker because I tried for a long time to be a main platform speaker, but there was one person that didn't like me, and so they always voted against me being the guy.
Right.
So I finally get out there, 2003. And the music stops playing. I walk to the center of the stage and I go, I lost my mother when I was 2.5 years old. I found her an hour later. I got off the bus. She got lost.
Right.
I said, you thought my mother died when I was 2.5 years old because of one word that I said, lost. I said, when you're speaking to an audience, you better be careful about every single word that you say, because if you say one wrong word, the audience will misinterpret your entire message.
Right.
So I had the audience on the floor and thinking within a minute.
Right.
So I want my audience to think, and I want them to laugh. Laugh and think, not and in that order.
Right.
I
Got
want
it.
them to laugh first.
Laugh first. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. I remember in one of the books, I think it might have been the yellow one. I remember you talking about that, like studying humor. And
It's
even if you're
important.
not naturally the funniest person, at least
I
like,
make friends with funny guys. I used to
right.
wait. I used to go to the Blue Angel in New York City and wait for Woody Allen to come out of the back door so I could talk to him.
Wow.
I watched every comedy show that I possibly could in Philly. Every comedian that came to town, old guys, new guys, didn't matter to me. I wanted to see every one of them.
I'm going to see Bill Burr in about 8 weeks here when he's in
Love
Phoenix.
him. Fucking love him. He is disgustingly funny.
Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great for sure. So,
There's
um,
other guys. I'm a Dave Chappelle fan as well
yeah,
because he is our best storyteller.
right,
He is an amazing storyteller, and his timing is perfect
right.
because I'm watching what they do. But I'm also friends with a guy named Pat Hazel, who you
Okay,
don't know. He
yeah,
wrote for Seinfeld for 8 years.
wow,
He knows what's funny.
yeah,
My other humor buddy, Steve Rizzo, who is he quit stand-up comedy to become a corporate speaker.
hmm,
And he wrote about being a humor being. And you know what, but he's from New York.
right,
And he has a routine called the Falkland Islands.
okay,
And the teacher comes up and says, we're going to talk about the Falkland Islands. And some kid in the back of the room, New York kid, says, which Falkland Islands you talking about? That whole piece. So
all
it's a
right,
matter of using words, using creativity, but thinking funny
right,
will
right,
capture an audience.
right.
Will totally capture an audience.
In the investment world, that's grossly missing because everybody is so straight-laced and
Oh,
stern-faced and so serious, right? There's like never even a smile in the investment finance world usually.
but here's what they miss. I'm at a CEO, CFO
Yeah,
convention with 500 salespeople in the audience, and the CFO will always talk before me because they know they're going to die. And we went from 6.7 to 6.9 in under 18 months. Like, seriously? Like, you're telling me that? Like, I'm going to write it down? No. And they missed the humor part.
right,
If he said, listen, we went from 6.7 to 6.9, I want to explain something. That doesn't mean one fucking thing to any one of you in this audience.
right,
He could say that and he would be a hero for
right,
saying it. But he
right.
thinks he's going to, have a pencil up his butt to be able to talk to an audience, and he's completely wrong.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
Completely
sure.
wrong. Yeah.
For sure. I get bored instantly in about half a second at most investment conferences. So we try to make ours super fast paced and try to get some humorous people up there. So
I'll talk to him.
appreciate that.
I'll
Yeah.
talk to him.
Yeah. Well,
I want to ask somebody, like, my dad always had money in his pocket because there were no credit cards when I was growing up. So my dad would have like at least $1,000 in his pocket. He called it walking around money.
right.
You never know when you're going to need money.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. So I always carried money.
Right.
If I was at your investment thing, I would go, how many guys have $1,000 in their pocket? Let's see, there's me. I don't understand. Why do you not carry cash?
Right.
Well, I don't, and cash is fading.
Right.
I want them to think, why are they not carrying cash? Did your dad carry cash? Yeah, he did actually. And so he wasn't able to pass that tradition on. Well, I have credit cards. Oh, really? So one day the bank says your credit card's not any good, or nobody's credit card is any good. What are you going to do?
Right.
On 9/11, I was in Las Vegas, and I was giving a talk to. I was hired by Coca-Cola to give a
Yeah.
talk to El Pollo Loco.
Okay.
350 store managers who were predominantly blue collar or upper blue collar workers.
Sure.
It's 6 o'clock in the morning in Vegas, 9 o'clock in the morning in New York. And I just wanted to turn on Monday Night Football to see what the score was.
Right.
And I see an airplane hitting a building. I go, something's wrong here. And so I watched for a little while and I saw the building come down. I go into the room where we're having a meeting, and the CEO wants to call the meeting off. And I go, we're not calling this meeting off.
Right.
Because you're going to go back to your room and watch a plane hit a building 200 times and you can't leave. There's no way out unless you buy a car.
Right.
So I'm going to give a 45-minute talk on attitude. And if you like it, fine. And if you don't like it, we can quit in 45 minutes.
Right.
I spoke for 4.5 hours.
Nice.
Literally nonstop. Okay.
Wow.
But as I'm walking through Vegas, you walk through a casino and no one knew because there's no clocks or windows in a casino.
Right.
Right. They're all throwing dice at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I walk where the big screens were that show you what room everything's in.
Yeah.
It was CNN.
Hmm.
All of on one big thing, and they're showing what's happening, the fires, all the shit that's going on. And they're walking toward the screen.
Right.
I am walking back to the cash machine.
Right.
And I'm putting every dime I can in my pocket.
Right.
Because I know if something's going to happen shitty, I'm going to have a pocket full of cash.
Right.
Well, I had 10 grand in my pocket.
Nice. Yeah.
And, well, A, because I could,
right.
But B, because I needed. You have to have money.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of guys that bought cars, they'd each get $5,000 put together, get a $20,000 car and drive where they had to go because there was no planes for a week.
Right. Right. Wow.
Think about that. And so in times of turbulence, you have to have cash.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Got it. And that's the time we're in now. So my last question, and I'd just like to hear real quick about your the real estate project you were mentioning before we started as well, is just about if somebody has been selling products at $5,000 and $10,000 as a sales team, and they want to elevate and sell $25,000 packages, $100,000, $75,000 packages. Any advice or insights on how to make that move as a sales team, as a CEO, as a company, as a salesperson, and sell something 5 times, 10 times more expensive than you're used to selling over the last decade?
Yes. First of all, if you don't believe you can sell it, don't do it.
Right.
Your belief system has to be ironclad.
Right.
And the second thing I'm going to tell you is so obvious that nobody does it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to customers that own those things for that amount of money, and I'm going to ask them why they bought. If I can document 50 people why they bought,
right.
First of all, I can go into the next customer and say, hey, I just talked to 50 people that bought this. Would you like to know why?
Right.
Yeah, actually, I would like to know why.
Right.
So now you're already a maven, but you already have the insight as to what's the emotional connection to why people are going to buy this, and do that.
Sure.
I'm not going to ask my manager. I'm not going to ask my boss. I'm going to ask people that actually own it.
Right.
Why they bought it.
Right. Okay.
Why people buy is 1 billion times more powerful than how to sell.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you. I'm sure many people here
You have to ask the most insightful questions that anyone has asked me in the last 10 years.
Oh, well, thank you. I've been
and when you have a picture of a handprint behind you taped onto the wall, it tells me you're a dad first and foremost.
Right.
And so it makes me want to engage with you.
Right. I appreciate you saying that.
My job is dad.
Right.
That's my main job. And then granddad. And now great granddad. And everything else is second.
Right. Well, my kids, thank you, because like I mentioned before the call, we're moving to Hawaii in June, and without some of these strategies, we wouldn't be moving to Hawaii in June. So we'll send you a handprint sometime as a thank you. So what's
no, send me a pineapple.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll send you some fresh pineapple, some macadamia nuts. Your daughters will approve.
Yeah, or Kona coffee.
Yeah, exactly. What's the real estate project that you're working on? I think you're inside of it right now, actually recording this.
I am. I um, moved into an old factory in 1998. They had divided it up into 84 lofts, and I lease purchased two of them and knocked out the wall.
Hmm.
So now instead of a 1,200-foot place, I had a 2,400-foot place. And then the guy next to me wanted to sell, and I said, "Shit, I'll buy." And then the people underneath me were noisy, so I bought them. And all of a sudden now I'm owning my whole floor. I'm owning part of my floor. I now own the whole floor except for one
Yeah,
unit
nice.
and the floor below me. So I live in silence because I live on the roof,
Right,
and I own what's underneath me.
right,
So no one can make noise and annoy me.
right.
Well, I've lived here for 25 years, Richard, and it's time for me to sell it. And I now own the most expensive real estate listing in Charlotte ever.
Nice.
Fox News came and did a listing on it. I'm selling it for 12.9 million,
Right,
but it's 10,000 square feet in the heart of Charlotte.
right,
And you couldn't buy this in Soho because if you buy a
right.
loft in Soho, it's 2,500 square feet for 25 million bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
So and Charlotte has the best airport in the United States. Charlotte actually just became the most move-inable city in America.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And I'm going to put only in front of it to a person who's extremely wealthy, $13 million is chump change.
right, right, for
They
sure.
may have they may need a tax exchange. They may need a
Yeah,
shelter. They may need an income providing thing. And I can provide that.
yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah, shoot me the listing for it. We'll share it on our social
I
media.
will.
And
I'll definitely.
yeah,
You're gonna love it. You're
yeah,
totally gonna. In the
awesome.
meantime, I'm gonna take you on a 1-second tour.
Sure,
Ah, ah. When you get older, it takes you a little longer to get up.
sure.
I'll leave out the word "it" as well. Uh-oh. So I'm now walking you through where I live. And here is, see if I got this. This is my library. I'll try to throw on a couple of lights. I hate giving the electric company money. I'm sure you do as well. But this is a real library looks like.
Wow,
And it goes on and on and on.
wow. Yeah,
This whole
11,000 books.
section, yeah, almost 12,000.
Wow.
This is here. You know the Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah,
I have the Dewey Decimal System. It's kind of like the Dewey Decimal System, but I have my own set of how I organize everything.
right, right. Awesome.
And
Wi-Fi.
it,
Oh, there we go.
so you can see the whole thing.
Yeah, awesome. So all the lofts are connected by stairwells and stuff like that.
Look at all of these badges say "Be prepared"
Oh, wow.
because that's the essence of what I do.
You were in the Boy
I'm
Scouts as
prepared.
well?
I was a Boy Scout, yeah. Cub Scout and Boy Scout.
Cool. Awesome. I didn't know that.
I have the letter from the guy that founded Boy Scouts.
Huh. Wow.
I have ephemera from everybody you can think of if I
Yeah,
admire it. So,
right.
for example, here's my Steve Jobs business card.
Wow.
And these are things, this room is electric with inspiration.
Right,
Everyone should have a room like this.
right.
Take these things and make it small. This room is like 9 by 9.
Okay.
And, but I walk in, some woman did a portrait of me a decade ago. I never hung it. I finally hung it.
Nice.
Yeah. But it has stuff you'd never think of. Like this is, can you see the Wicked Witch of the North?
Yeah.
Her name's Margaret Hamilton. She
Okay.
did this when she was in her 20s. She
Hmm.
became the Maxwell House coffee lady.
Huh.
That don't know. She was Cora from Vermont. And what it told me is you can change your careers and still be relevant.
Right.
50 years after you achieve success.
Right.
Most people don't.
Right. Right. People are afraid of change in general.
Yeah, if you look at it as opportunity, you win. If you
Right.
don't, but
Right.
up here, my Napoleon Hill stuff, first editions of Think and Grow Rich, but the blue book
Awesome.
is a book called How to Sell Your Way Through Life.
Okay.
And I'm doing a course on that for the Napoleon Hill Institute.
Awesome.
And
I haven't read that one yet.
it is the best book on selling ever. Second
Wow.
best is Little Red Book, but first best is How to Sell Your Way Through Life.
Awesome. Appreciate
You
you
can
bringing
get
that up.
copies of it in paperback. If you a first edition's like $5,000,
Wow.
but you can get a paperback for like $20.
Okay. I'll look that up. I'll read that for sure. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Chapter
Yeah.
4 is qualities of a master salesperson, and he calls them salesmen because there were no women in selling in those days. But
Sure.
qualities that every salesman master to be a master. And when you read them, you'll realize why this book is so amazing.
Okay.
And
Cool.
we'll talk. I'm having you on my show on Sell or Die.
Sure.
I have no choice. You're fucking amazing.
Oh,
And
thanks.
I totally appreciate the intellect that went into this interview.
Yeah.
Totally appreciate.
Awesome. Yeah, no, appreciate your time. I'll follow up on some of those notes before we hit recording, the recording start button, and some of the stuff we talked about during the interview. So I'll be in touch later today. Appreciate it.
Cool. Whatever you need, the answer is yes. I
Cool.
respond best to text,
Okay.
then phone,
Okay.
then email.
Got it. Makes sense.
Because I don't get notified that I got an email.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Sounds great. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Take care, bud. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Tell your
Bye.
children I said, hey.
Yeah, I'll tell them. Give me hope since you have twice as many girls, more than that.
Listen, little girls are the best.
Yeah, yeah, they are.
I tried for a boy till I got all girls, and it was God's way of telling me, dude, it's your
Give
fucking
up.
blessing. Take it, right?
Message took a little while, but you got it. You got it.
I knew it was all over for me when we had the fourth girl, but she'll
Right.
be over here in about an hour. And this is a girl whose average grade is 98 out of 100 in high
Yeah.
school. She's a freshman in high school.
Wow.
She reads a book a week, and she's knows every word to every Taylor Swift song.
Wow.
And I'm
Wow.
going to. She and I are going to Olivia Rodrigo when she comes to Charlotte in March.
Awesome.
I
Really
want to
fun.
go with my kid to music. I
Yeah.
listen. If you don't tell anybody, this is recorded, but I listen to Taylor Swift in my car when no one else is there.
You felt like 22 on your 78th birthday, huh?
Yeah. That's incredible. And that album, the 22 is on, is Red, which is my favorite.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I'll tell my kids.
Yeah.
Of course
Tell
you
your
like the
girl,
red.
call me up. I'll tell your girl, your oldest girl, tell her, call me up, and I'll tell them which Taylor Swift song is the best.
Okay. Okay. That's great. That's great. Well, we'll share our Taylor Swift plead
Please.
video
please.
with you as we try to get her to answer our 3 questions.
And I'll introduce you to Harvey McKay. And
Okay.
if he can't find you, if he's not, I don't think he's a billionaire, but he's,
Okay.
Sure. Very well heeled, but he'll know some.
Okay. Awesome.
That's how you're going to get that's how you're going to get to your 100th interview.
Yeah. Networking, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Sounds great.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.